Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Billy Napier, the Florida Gators, land a very intriguing commitment in the 2025 class, coming from three-star defensive lineman Jeremiah McCloud. And I'll probably start out with this. Like three-star according to 24/7 Sports and a lot of the recruiting services, but you take a look at the offer sheet for someone like Jeremiah McCloud, you can tell he's really one of the more coveted defensive linemen in this 2025 class. Offers from Georgia, LSU, Auburn, Florida State. Jeremiah McCloud is a guy that I think is a riser in this recruiting process and a guy that we're probably going to be talking about as a four-star defensive lineman come signing day in December. Want to get into the film, talk a little bit about what Jeremiah McCloud really brings to the table for this Florida Gators defense. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys, the Florida Gator fans. Whether it's the transfer portal, whether it's the recruiting trail, y'all continue to show a ton of love, a ton of support to the boys. Can't thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into this one. And I'm going to say something that I want to make sure I'm really clear in terms of what I mean. Jeremiah McCloud, in terms of his recruiting process, kind of reminds me of LJ McCray when he was in high school. And I'm not saying Jeremiah McCloud is going to become a top 10 national prospect, but if you guys remember back when LJ McCray was getting recruited out of high school, when he was a sophomore and junior, there wasn't a ton of buzz around his name and was a guy that really shot up the recruiting rankings later on in that process. You look at Jeremiah McCloud, you start reading some of the reports from the Under Armour All-American practices and camps over the last couple of weeks. It sounds like this is one of the guys that's kind of a grown man out there, really just dominating. And again, LJ McCray was a guy that it took a couple of years playing defensive line for him to put it together on the football field. He kind of did that his senior year. Jeremiah McCloud, kind of a similar vibe in terms of him peaking at the right time during his recruiting process. And I think it's really good by the Florida Gators to get on this kid early, who was previously committed to Mississippi State, decommits. The Florida Gators kind of swoop in and make this one happen. I'm really interested to see where Jeremiah McCloud ends up in the recruiting rankings over the next couple of months, because I do think this is a guy that, the stock price is going in the right direction with Jeremiah McCloud. Now, getting into the player, Jeremiah McCloud, 6'3", 280. We talk about this a lot, bet on this kind of kid. He carries 280 pounds exceptionally well. You turn on the film, really just a lot of different ways that he can win on the defensive line. He's a guy that can win with speed to power, being kind of just heavy hands going right through offensive linemen, but also a guy that you see win with some athleticism as well. We talk about that on the defensive line. When you can blend the power in your hands with athleticism, that's when you get difference makers on the defensive line. And you kind of see the flashes of Jeremiah McCloud with both the athleticism and the power in his hands. And a guy that I would kind of project him to put on some weight, get up to around 310 pounds, and really play on the inside. But you turn on the film, he makes an impact at the 5 technique, at the 3 technique. He's a guy that you move all over the defensive line, but a guy that at the college level probably going to be a guy that plays on the inside. And before we get into the film, I want to just say I'm a really big fan of Billy Napier building the trenches. But you take a look at what they did in 2024, obviously headlined by LJ McCray. You take a look at what they're building in 2025, Jalen Wiggins, now Jeremiah McCloud. It's pretty clear that Billy Napier wants to build this program through the line of scrimmage, and he's really just stockpiling some difference makers on the defensive line, getting into the film. And it's a fun film study to watch because you see him really impact the game in a multitude of different ways. Right here, kind of working, really held up on the tackle, maybe even that 4 technique there, but you see the ability to close the distance, make plays in space. I mean, that's a 6'3", 280-pound body. And he just shows some really good athleticism right here, playing more of that 3 tech where, and I'm just going to use a little bit of power. He plays extremely hard. Like, there is a lot of motor to Jeremiah McCloud's game. And again, wins in a lot of different ways. You'll see him win with athleticism. You'll see him win with just the power in the lower half and in the hands that he has. I mean, he gets out of his stance so exceptionally well, in my opinion, for somebody that is 280 pounds, right? You run back this film right here, you're going to see him get off the line. I mean, just really impressive how explosive he is off the line of scrimmage, a guy that really interior offensive linemen struggle to deal with because of that quickness off the snap, off the line of scrimmage. you take a look at a few different plays, and again, you'll see him win on the edge, chasing down. I think this is a backside chase. Yeah, I mean, this is really impressive. You talk about cutting that corner, making the play from the backside at 280 pounds. You see him excel as an edge rusher. You see him excel as an inside defensive lineman, a guy that's playing the 3-tech, taking on blocks, getting off blocks, making plays. I'm a really big fan of Jeremiah McCloud, what he brings to the table. And again, you're going to see him work backside. The closing speed on this kid when he's playing edge is absolutely insane. And I almost wonder if he's kind of going to be a similar guy to LJ McCray, where we kind of thought LJ McCray would kick inside, put some weight on. LJ McCray is just really athletic for his size, and it's kind of like, all right, why don't we just stick him out on the edge? You saw them kind of play around with Kelby Collins in terms of where is he best suited. It sounds like he's going to go on the inside in 2024. I like getting these kind of bodies. I mean, you can just get him into the weight room, get him on campus, figure out how does his body mature over the next 12 months before he enrolls with the Florida Gators. Is he a guy that you look like is going to get 310 pounds, carry it well, or is it a guy that you want to keep his athleticism, leave him as a bigger edge rusher? We'll see what they do. I personally think he's going to kick on the inside, but with that athleticism for that size, I could see him doing a lot of different things on that defensive line. And again, my biggest takeaway, you're going to see Florida ramp it up on the recruiting trail, but I am fired up to see Billy Napier really get after it in the trenches. And I think Jeremiah McCloud is one of those really good additions. We'll cut it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.